Welcome to How Would You Write It? The podcast where I get a chance to sit down with some of the creative minds that are up and coming or already established. So, if you are interested in the stories behind the story or even the craft of storytelling, you're in the right place. So, hit that subscribe button and let's get started. I am so very pleased and happy that my guest today is Jason Ginsburg, the creator of Fake Theme Park, Twitter's longest running comedy project. He studied film at USC and has written and produced content for the Discovery Channel, Science Channel, Home Shopping Network, and Playboy. He has also written the screenplay for The Sorcerer's Beast, or wrote a screenplay for The Sorcerer's Beast, which stars Corey Feldman and Jeffrey Combs. Jason works in unscripted TV. Ooh, we got to talk about that. And lives in New York with his wife and his cat. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you for having me. I've been watching the videos. It's a pleasure to join such esteemed company.
I am so very pleased that you're here because I think that you have experience in knowledge in places that some of our audience, have not yet had a chance to be a part of or even know about. Unscripted TV, and then you have some features, I believe, streaming on like Amazon and where else?
I think that's it. Other free sites that you may not have heard of. I think Freevee, which is part of Amazon, and other weird little places.
So I am just so very pleased that we get a chance to kind of like dig into your brain and find out about what it takes to get your project streamed, and then what it takes to work on unscripted TV. But I really, really, truly want to first talk about your script, your comedy script called Unexplainable. So can you tell the audience a little bit, can you give a little like synopsis, a log line about what that script is about?
Yeah, it is 4 paranormal investigators in different fields. One is a ghost hunter, one's a UFO seeker, one's a Bigfoot tracker, and one is a self-proclaimed witch. They all descend on a small town in Oregon to investigate a cattle mutilation, which is a phenomenon that never has really been explained. And of course, each of the 4 of them think that their monster is responsible, and that the other 3 are idiotic charlatans. So they know each other casually, but now they're all at the same place at the same time, trying to prove that it's a ghost, not Bigfoot, or it's Bigfoot, not an alien. And then they have a clash and sort of turn the town upside down as they begin to find out there actually are secrets and something is going on in the town. Which one of them is right? Well, that's the mystery for the viewer and the reader.
So have you always been interested in writing sci-fi fantasy like this? Has that always been kind of like, I know it's comedy and I know that's kind of part of your heart and, genre, but what made you, I can say it like this, what inspired you to write this script?
I partly was working in unscripted TV. I was at Discovery Channel, and there was really a share that like the whole company includes things like Ghost Adventures and Kindred Spirits and Ghost Brothers. So I've always been fascinated with paranormal everything. All the 4 things I mentioned are things I don't necessarily practice, but certainly study all those phenomena and more, all kinds of unsolved mysteries in history. And it occurred to me that, when you go to the bookstore, it just says like occult. And you go to the occult section, there's a UFO book next to a Bigfoot book, next to an alien book, next to a ghost book. And I thought, it's all occult to us.
Yeah.
What do the authors think? Does the Bigfoot author, like being next to the ghost book? What do they think of all this? Just because you believe in everything, you see that a lot, like in X-Files, or even some of the shows now that are on unscripted TV. There's usually like one skeptic and one believer. And the believer believes everything. Well, that's not really, is that how it works? If you believe in ghosts, you also believe in UFOs? I'm not sure that's true. Just because it's in the same part of the bookstore, I'm not sure that everyone's belief system quite goes that way.
You're right.
I thought, what would it be like? All 4 of those people got together and sort of like fought it out so they could accuse each other They can make fun of each other. We're not. No, that me, the author, am not. But the fact that each of these 4 experts are pointing out the flaws in each other, going, well, aliens, it can exist in other planets. That's science. Ghosts is just made up. Well, Bigfoot's an actual animal. UFOs that's just people seeing things in the sky. Bigfoot has been seen here on Earth. So that everyone has a good point, but they're all, believing in only one thing. So that was the idea, was make a comedy that sort of looked at it. I've never quite seen anything like it. It's sort of like a funny X-Files. But again, I've never seen four believers. It's always been one skeptic and one believer, and they fight. Yes. What about 4 different believers who are skeptical about different things?
That is, I love this idea. I'm hoping you get it greenlit somewhere, because I would love to see that. I would love to see this, because it is quite interesting. Because you're right, I never thought about that, because I know a lot of people who believe in ghosts, but they don't believe in UFOs. Right. So what happens when they're confronted with a UFO expert who's accusing them of being wrong? When they accuse, they're not fighting against the elite universities or anything, or experts. It's other believers like themselves that they see at conventions. That's all the conventions that have to deal with all this stuff. It was a top 3 finish in the comedy category, a Final Draft's big break. That got me some attention. That got me the manager that I have now, as a matter of fact. And so that has been, and it's, thank you. And it was written with an eye towards budget. I have early in my career, if you want to call it that, I was writing both alone and with a partner, and we wrote things, spaceships and dragons. I wrote a college football movie that was all a lot of fun, and then got decent sort of like little mini awards and stuff. No one's going to make, from a first-time writer, rent out college football stadiums and stage a bunch of games, and they had to have dragons flying around. So I was trying to think about what is science fiction and fantasy that's cheap. Yes. What is something that I can actually bring down to earth? So this is just fantasy enough. There's something going on. Is it ghosts? Is it witches? We'll see what happens. So there's just enough of it to interest me. But otherwise, just writing. People say, write Brothers McMullen. Write these people in a house. That's boring. These are labors of love. This is my time I'm spending on this. I don't want to write to people in a house. So I was trying to find cheap things. I was looking at things like Primer for inspiration. Coherence is another good one. Anything that does not require special effects. I made a whole list of fantasy movies, might be useful for your listeners, that don't have any special effects. Liar, Liar. Groundhog Day. What Women Want and What Men Want. Tuck Everlasting. So you see some of these things that are they're fantasies, right? There's magic. And yet, what in Liar Liar, there's no dragons, there's no wizards or anything. So I was trying to think of things like that are what is fantasy, but it doesn't cost a lot of money to show. Just being immortal, you're just immortal. There's no effect to that. So that was the idea. I was just sick of writing. It was fun writing all these fun screenplays just for me, but nobody was biting. Because they're too expensive from a nobody like me. So I was like, what can we shoot in a small town? It's Oregon in the screenplay. You could shoot it in Georgia. You could shoot it in Louisiana. You could shoot it in Canada. It just has to be a town, basically. So I really tried to put my producer's hat on and write to budget. I think, to hopefully get it sold. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing that little knowledge of how you made sure that you looked at other scripts and screenplays and films that spoke to how you wanted to make sure that your script was, I don't want to say low budget because it's not low budget, but you made it a similar location, which speaks to the budget, and that we as screenwriters need to think about that when we're writing, even though we want to be free. Don't get us, we're not saying don't write that big fantasy script, but we are saying also write the script that speaks to a budget that can get your foot in the door and can get you greenlit. That's what
he's
not saying don't
how many times fantasy. Of course. I'll have that in your back pocket. Always have more screenplays. I have 10 total, I think, that are mine. I've written 3 more with a partner, someone else I knew at USC, that I began writing with him before we went our separate ways. I'm so many. How many listings have you seen? Have your listeners seen? Have I seen that say minimal locations, 5 or fewer locations? I mean, that's the producer. They're telling you something. So try. It's again. This is coming from someone who did write about spaceships and dragons and stuff like that. I wrote those screenplays, but now I'm trying to you go, can you still have fun and be sci-fi or fantasy? Certainly horror can be cheap, even when there are effects and monsters and things. Yeah, that is something that it can still be, that a producer will not just go, I love this, but I can't make this. Like, well, that only does you so much good. Then, you know, it was fun for a while being told that. I want to get things made and get paid. So,
and then when you get things made, then the next thing could be the big thing. And so I'm hoping that we get to see Unexplainable on screen, because I'm a big sci-fi girly, if you can't tell from a little bit behind me. But I'm a sci-fi girly, I'm a horror girly, I'm a everything girly. So I love, but my first genre is sci-fi. So I love the whole concept. I love the whole thing and how you're bringing these different people in and they're kind of battling each other. And then, but there is a overall arching story mystery that they all have to kind of work toward to kind of help solve. So I love.
Yeah, but they all, right. They're rivals and they come together as a team. And in fact, my manager thinks it actually is like a backdoor pilot. It really could be kind of a new X-Files where these four fight and bicker, but they solve mysteries along the way. And it does end open-ended where they are a team and go on to the next adventure.
They go on to the next adventure.
Thinking of that too.
Yes, I love that. And you said this script helped walk you into a door to getting a manager?
Yeah, it really, I mean, I had written all kinds of things that, again, did okay here and there. Were just, you know, some list somewhere, or a quarter finalist or semi-finalist somewhere. This one was by being top 3 in the comedy category. So you go to the website, and even, you know, it clearly showed it. I wasn't making this up. Final Draft's Big Break, which is one of the bigger ones. There's all kinds of little film festivals and award things here that you can say you won, that you don't seem to have a lot of currency in Hollywood, from what I can tell. But that Final Draft's Big Break, people know that one. So that I would led, that was actually in the subject line. Was I think I put top 3 comedy finish of Final Draft's Big Break. I didn't say my name or didn't say anything. It was just like that. And that gets you to open the email to go, well, someone thought he was one of the 3 best in the country for this 1 year of the contest. Yeah, that was much better than just saying unrepped writer looking for agent. You know, that a subject line? They have a million of those, but trying to stand out somehow with like, this is worth opening the email and reading the log line.
So that tells, you know, up and comers, or even us who are still kind of in the pit of and still submitting to, you know, contests, that, you know, contests actually work to get your foot in the door. So, you know, just pick the right contest and, you know, research the right contest before you enter it. And it can possibly open that door. So I'm so very happy to hear that you have a manager now. And again, I'm expecting to see this Unexplainable on TV. And when it gets there, you better come back and talk to me, because I want to hear all about it. I want to be the first one to be like, hey, he was on my show. Okay.
You'll be my first interview. I will come back, I promise.
Okay. All right. So I also want to talk to you about, like I said earlier, I want to talk to you about streaming and working on unscripted TV, but let's go to unscripted TV first. So how did you get into unscripted TV?
So I'm not on the production side. I do want to say a little bit here and there, because you mentioned in my bio that I've produced a few, like basically web series and sort of social media kind of content. But I was at what is now Warner Brothers Discovery. I started on the Animal Planet social media team and the Science Channel social media team. I moved from there to Discovery Go. If you may remember, before there was streaming, everything was a Go. It was HBO Go, and there was Showtime anytime. So yeah, just that sort of app. I worked on that, actually merchandising the content. So if you went to the Discovery Channel Go and saw all those various rails, it's not all automated. And if it is automated, someone's automating it, you know, whether it's A to Z or popularity by day or popularity by week. But I was also actually making actual little playlists and hubs for various things. And that really translated, it became even more of a expanded job with Discovery Plus. So when we launched the streaming service in 2021,
streaming service is Discovery Plus. I love Discovery Plus.
Hey, yes, it often gets overlooked. Some of that programming is on Max now, so it's sort of you just sort of get it there. But so I was in charge of all the factual programming. So that was everything, the networks like Animal Planet, Science Channel, Discovery. We had things from History Channel, anything that was science or nature, adventure, survival, wildlife. That was all me. So it ended up being 13 different screens, including Shark Week and Puppy Bowl, those big events too. I got CNN when they eventually became part of the company. So again, that was when people say, what do you do when you go to the home screen or your screen? Some of it is personalized based on your viewing. Some of it is automated, but again, the automation is me, and some of it is just me or someone actually making real. So we did things like for holidays. My audience was very big on things like this first moon landing, a lot of military holidays. It was more of a male audience that I spoke to. So things like D-Day and Pearl Harbor, obviously Halloween. So I was, anything that happened in the news, if we had something like a big space mission happening, I could go with, we're landing on Mars. How many Mars specials do we have? Now there's a whole Mars rail on your screen. Someone made that. That wasn't just the computer algorithm making it up. Someone had to actually pick those episodes and pick the shows and put them in some order. Yeah, someone is really doing that. It's not just people who say the algorithm, but it's not always an algorithm.
So unscripted, is it truly unscripted?
I think there are degrees of that. To say this is the term we use is unscripted, not reality. Those I was working on were some of it was real, like Deadliest Catch. They're really out there catching crabs. That's maybe the storylines may be somewhat massaged, but there's no green screen. They are on the water. I mean, I know the producers talk about like weather and ship sinking and things like that. So that's what the shows that people would know. I think all the Animal Planet shows, I guess some of the bigger ones like things like Pitbulls and Parolees, or Crikey, It's the Irwins. I had shows like Gold Rush, Naked and Afraid, Street Outlaws, Deadliest Catch, some of the Science Channel shows like How the Universe Works, Mythbusters, Science, Space's Deepest Secrets, and all the Joss Gates shows, all those sort of history shows like Expedition Unknown, Expedition X, Tales from the Explorers Club. They're all hosted by him. So yes, a lot of that stuff is, when we talk about history, they are real. They have real experts talking, and he will go on an expedition. There was always the idea that how real were these Joss Gates shows? We didn't find anything. That's how real it was. You're looking for treasure, looking for the lost whatever in a tomb. I didn't find it. So if it was fake, wouldn't they have pretended? So they made a point of actually trying to sort of find expeditions that were getting close to finding something and sort of joining them. So there was one season I met with one of the producers. They were talking about, now we're going to find things. We actually find something each episode, or every other episode. There's at least a gold coin or a bullet from the Alamo or something that we can point to. So it is. I think to answer your question in a long way, this is not Real Housewives. This is not not dating shows. This is things like space and animals and adventure.
You have to have something to go by to speak to. So it's slightly scripted because you're telling factual things regarding like space or animals. So there is something in the way of how the host is speaking to it that is scripted because they're speaking to facts.
Yes. Right. And then with something things like Gold Rush or Deadliest Catch, people that are just working, you kind of find a storyline along the way. Well, this year's redemption. Or last year, they didn't find the gold. This year, they need to, or they're going to lose their house. Or with Deadliest Catch, there was, with COVID, at what point Russia, shut down their side of the Bering Sea, and you couldn't, cross the line. And it was a big deal. We had all kinds of Russia and red art for that season because they were, getting close to the Russian fleet who was there guarding it. So you can't script that, what's going to happen. So that was, you film it and sort of begin to see along the way, this really the character. What does this mean to the character?
Is it like filming a documentary? Is it almost like a documentary? Like you film and then you build the story after you film everything? Is it sort of
that's story producer is what that's called. Yeah. So you look at the footage and start to give notes. Because I was looking again, first of all, I was the streaming side, but also the network side. The production company is the one really doing the cuts, and then the network, mostly Discovery Channel, would say, "Okay, we need cuts. Here's our thoughts before we air this. We have notes on your notes. We have notes on your edits. We need a transition here. We need this graphic is misspelled. We need to tell people what's going on, or we need to do a flashback because he's referring to something that was season 7. So let's make sure to put that in in black and white or whatever for 30 seconds, so we see that scene." It's quite a lot that's done after the fact or as they're going along, because that's something else I noticed as the season went along, it got closer and closer to the air date because first they had all this lead time, and then suddenly it's we are just going to go to air in 3 days. I hope that episode is done, the music's done, the caption's done, and all the graphics done. Yeah, there were times where I won't name the shows, but that evening I had to wait to push the publish button. I was one actually doing the media logistics. And so it got so close to air, it was just, we missed air. So it went on cable, but you didn't see it on Discovery Plus or Discovery Go until 18 minutes later, because we just did not have that file. It was not ready to go.
It was not ready
So
to go. So
that's
there's a
supposed to
different
come.
file for regular TV, and then it's a different file for streaming.
Right. Linear TV, yes, like cable TV is
Okay.
different from what we've got. And I guess in terms of resolution, we have all these different platforms that Discovery's on. You've got your Roku and DirecTV. People watch it on the web. People watch it on their phones, and there's two different kinds of phone operating systems. So
Wow.
it's there's a lot to it that has to be done, as well as things like captioning and metadata. So when you type in zebra, you find all the animal shows that have a zebra in them.
Zebra,
Somebody
yeah,
has to
yeah.
actually do that. Like, that's not a robot. That's a person having to tag it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you. That's a lot of information that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And you're working on one of the streaming shows that I really love. So, okay. Let's talk about your knowledge and experience of getting, something feature on a streaming. How does that work? How do you get a show or movie on a streaming? How does that work?
Well, for my film you mentioned, the Sorcerer's Beast, and there's another one. I wouldn't probably call it a sequel. It's just sort of another film in that universe. It's coming out supposedly this year. It might be 26, called The Warlock's Curse. They're all set in the same world, for what it's worth. And I wrote those first two. I actually wrote 4 all told. I was paid for 4. We'll see if all 4 of them actually come out. But the not thrilling answer is, a friend of a friend had some money and wanted to produce a bunch of low-budget fantasy movies, spoke to me. We discussed it. He had something that was sort of partly written, so I finished it, rewrote it. I wasn't quite sure what to do. It reminded me of Empire Strikes Back, so I was like, I'll just write Empire Strikes Back in this fantasy world. So I had all the beats of that. Like, you know what? This seems like it's a young person getting to know her powers and taking on an evil wizard. I'm like, this is enough like Empire Strikes Back. I can just hit those beats. So that was fairly easy. Then that was it. I mean, basically, I was paid, and just like in Hollywood, off the script went. It got rewritten. The budget changed, and things changed because of that. I was not involved. They shot in Illinois. I wasn't there. They cast it. I was not involved in that either. They then found a distributor. So this is Fallout Productions. There's all this information on IMDb, and Fallout found the distributor ITN, and I think ITN got it on Amazon. And this is just Amazon.com. This is not an Amazon Prime, like an official show like Mrs. Maisel. This is just a movie that you can stream either for free. I think it's free now. That for a while you could rent it for whatever, $2 or $3. So that was basically, like any other big studio. This is how a little writer, a little production company, a little distributor got it on Amazon. That's it.
I love it. So you're saying that, so you're saying that the Sorcerer's Beast, you have 4 different movies coming off of that?
That's what I was paid for.
3 more coming out.
Yeah, I did the first 4. Yeah. So the first one, the whole world was called The Age of Stone and Sky. That's what. So it was Age of Stone and Sky, the Sorcerer's Beast, and then that soon, the Warlock's Curse. There's the Warriors something. I forget. I mean, there's a long time ago, to be honest. And the 5th one is The Quest for the Fallen Star, I believe. Yes, that's the call of it. So yes, I wrote 4 of them. After the first one was sort of proof of concept, I was hired to write more of them. But the world is, when I say fantasy, my thought was like Lord of the Rings, like Game of Thrones, but this is low budget fantasy, so it's more like Neolithic. No castles, no knights, no armor, no dragons. It's people with spears and tents and that sort of level, and just shot in a forest. So I don't think there's really any actual set. I think it's all exteriors.
One location.
Right. But they can afford 2 celebrities, for like a day. Corey Feldman is the voice of the Beast, kind of like Darth Vader. Jeffrey Combs, though, is really in it. And as you can imagine, he's the mentor character who does not last beyond Act 1. So he can do his 1 day of shooting, and then he's out of there. We follow the young warrior instead. So that is it. So yes, I was, in a way, it was like Hollywood, where they buy the script and then my work is done.
Yeah,
really.
And you get your check. And you get your writer's credit. So
yeah, it's on IMDb. I've seen it on the screen. Yeah.
Thank you, Hollywood. I love it. So, Jason, what else do you have coming up that you can talk to us about?
Those two things are the big one. I mean, the next one, the Warlock's Curse. I believe I'm sharing credit on this one, and because someone came in and rewrote parts of it, which again, I
That
didn't change my
happened.
pay. They paid me already. They paid me years ago, but the credit
Mm-hmm.
now is two of us. So it
Mm-hmm.
should be and, right? Because if it's
Mm-hmm.
ampersand, your
Mm-hmm.
partners. If it's A and D, you were never in the same room together. So I think there's maybe the director who has the final credit. Anyway, that's I. If people want to watch it, it is short. It is on Amazon right now. Warlock's Curse should be out this year. It might be delayed for whatever reason, maybe for distribution until 26. And the next two haven't even been shot yet. But again, I've been paid. If you want me, I can pay. If you want me to pay me more to rewrites, I'd be happy to do that as well. But I've delivered my product, and that is it. Anything else I have going on? There's no real. I finished Fake Theme Park, which was,
Okay.
as far as I know, it still is Twitter's longest running comedy project. It was
Mm-hmm.
almost 12 years, so it still exists. People want to look at that fun because it was I was a tour guide at Universal Studios in
Mm-hmm.
my early days out of college, and saw that no one was making fun of sort of satirizing any theme parks, and it seemed like such an obvious thing to make fun of. So I launched this comedy Twitter that was made fun of all theme parks, SeaWorld and Six Flags and Disney and Universal, all kind of put together. So that is still up. It's still on Facebook and Twitter. You want to scroll backwards and read it chronologically backwards. I'm not updating it anymore after 12 years of every single day updating it. That is literally every single day. I use scheduling software. So even when I was on vacation or sick or something, at least one post went up.
The dedication.
Yes, yes. Everything else I'm working on is in too early stages. I am. One thing I guess I can say is one thing we had at Discovery Plus was a whole lot of data. That's what I was doing, was moving things around and doing A/B testing to see what was working and what was getting the most, clicks, views, minutes, because all that stuff, it matters. That matters if a show gets picked up or not. It was interesting to see that from the other side, to go, I am doing everything I can to promote this show. It is not clicking with the right audience. It doesn't come back next year. I'm not the only person in the room making that decision, but the numbers are there, and I'm trying to get cross audiences, and if you like this, you watch this, and forcing it on people. The first thing on your screen, whether you want it to be or not, there it is, real big, and you're like, what is this? Some new show I don't want to watch. Well, we're trying to get you to watch it. And so I saw a lot of numbers. And I saw things. I ended up seeing white space that could be shows. There was things not being done either correctly or sort of being missing the mark, that I thought this could be a show if you did it this way. So I came up with a bunch of unscripted pitches and have been pitching them for production companies that work with the Discovery Channel that I have some knowledge of, and just anybody who, again, I have a slideshow. I go on Zoom and present the slides, and one or two of them may be moving forward. So I might be getting into the unscripted world in that way as a producer, if it all goes well.
I love that. I love, listen, you're seeing your imagination and what you're doing. You're seeing opportunities. You're seeing things that no one else has looked at. And again, one of my favorite sayings is, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And you're saying, hey, let me bring this up to you guys. And you're moving toward green light, I hope.
Yes, it's all paperwork that is still being worked out, which is that's the manager's for. So it seems like something will move forward out of those four, I believe, at least one. I had, to be fair, I had the in. If people say, well, how did you do this?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're there, but see,
you're
making having the in when you're in the room. You're in the room. You're still bringing, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I believe that can make the company money. This is something I see that can, influence audiences and bring audiences in. You still, when you're in the room, you still work it. You still work it. Just because you're in the room doesn't mean
my initial sort of contact was in the email saying, sincerely, I worked with your shows. I know your shows. I'm a fan of your work. I think to say, and now I have some pitches you might. So it wasn't just some complete nobody. Hopefully, that they believe me that I said, I was promoting your shows.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the data. I like your shows. Here's something you also might like that's similar. So there was that advantage, if you will. Would that work on just writing cold? I don't know. It might. The fact that these are smaller companies. This is not like writing to Marvel going, I want to write the next Spider-Man movie. Yeah, everyone has written that email, including me. But writing to a smaller production company that just makes unscripted things for History Channel or Discovery or National Geographic, even public television, maybe they don't get 1,000 emails saying, I want to work for you, I want to work for you. So maybe that email will get read.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something else, was just to not swim against the stream and to go, what could I do that I actually have some experience with? It is still storytelling. It is still fun. Television is faster than film. So, as I mentioned, some of these TV shows, they were shooting them as we're airing them. So maybe that's a way in. If I can't make all my dragon movies, maybe I can do this because people will listen to me. People actually will listen to a 30-minute presentation and go, we'll get back to you. We'll talk to our development team and see. I got some very nice, I got meetings. What can I say? And it's just me, not even the manager. This is me reaching out to them, one-to-one going, I'm the one that knows your show, as the managers don't. I'm doing this, like sincerely. So that seemed to work. So it isn't, and something I never thought of 7 years ago before I began at Discovery. And here we are. It gave me certain entry points.
And I love that. And so I am excited to see what you have coming up next and let us know when you have your green light and when those shows start showing on Discovery, especially let me know. Okay. Because I would love to see
yes.
Because I'm all into that kind of thing. And feel free to come back with that. Where can folks find you?
It's not very exciting, but there's jasonginsburg.com. Obviously you always got to grab your name before someone else does. So if you want to just see I also have articles that I've written. I do a lot of writing. I feel like I'm a writer first. Mm-hmm. So I've written articles all over the place and like the comedy Twitter and things like that. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm most active now on BlueSky. I've sort of left Twitter along with Fake Theme Park, and BlueSky seems to be the next best thing and even the next big thing. So just my name. I think it's just Jason Ginsburg, whatever, .bsky or whatever. But if you just find me, Jason Ginsburg on BlueSky, I'm happy to talk to you and talk about not only my stuff, of course, but movies in general and screenwriting and all the various, sort of methods of it, like Save the Cat, which I personally like and use. And yeah, so that would be it. On social media or send me an email through jasonginsburg.com. I'm happy to talk to anyone and share my minimal amount of knowledge. Certainly, if mistakes equal experience, I have a lot of experience.
And I love that. I love that you have a lot of experience. And I love that you took the time to come out and, talk to me and the audience about how it is to work on Unscripted, your new script on Unexplainable, and then getting, some features on streaming, and now you have a couple more projects that are probably going to come out on unscripted TV too. So I am like, I'm very, very happy to have you here and I hope you come back. But before you even try to leave, I'll have to ask you the question that I ask everyone. Is there a current or a past IP that if you had a chance to be in the room as anything, director, writer, I don't know, actor or whatever, producer, what would you have brought to the table, or what would you have liked to have molded in a different way on that show or movie?
One of the great what ifs, I think, of sort of the modern cinematic history, which is sort of still being written, the Universal classic monsters. I mentioned I was a tour guide at Universal. I'm a lifelong fan of those classic films. We're talking of Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, all the old black and white ones you're thinking of. That's the ones. They all began at Universal. They really were shot there. I've walked on those sets. A lot of the exterior sets are still there. My dad introduced me to them when I was little. I never really quite graduated from there until like the slasher film, but just like those movies. So we're that like the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and that's kind of it. And as you probably know, maybe your viewers know, that Universal tried to resurrect them, to make a pun, in some way beyond the Mummy movies with the dark universe, they called it.
Yeah.
The first one was a Tom Cruise Mummy. It did not do
I
well,
actually
and the whole thing
liked,
fell
and I
apart.
thought they could have really built off of that. I actually liked the film. I thought they could have built off of that franchise.
And a female mummy, that was cool to have a female villain. They kind of flipped like Dracula, where it's a man after a woman and the way around. Yeah, there was some fun to be had there, and that kind of ended it. So what we have instead, which is not bad, is these individual films like Invisible Man, and we just had Wolfman. I think there's a Frankenstein or Bride coming out as well that's on their list. So, but the idea was, and I know I actually, I'm 1 degree removed from people that were in the room, there was this idea to map out this whole sort of Avengers like cinematic universe, because the Universal Monsters did it first. They were the first ones ever to do it. When the first time Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, that was the first time that anyone ever thought, oh, the monsters know each other, because they all were just separate films. It wasn't even clear what time period they were in. Was it the present? Was it the 1880s? They were all kind of Europe, obviously Transylvania, London, even Germany for Frankenstein. So London was the Wolfman. Mummy was in Egypt. But the idea that there was Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and they fought. And then there was the House of Dracula. We had a whole bunch of monsters. All these monster rallies, they call them. So they were all existed in the same time. That was the first film universe ever. So Universal saw the Avengers and making $1 gazillion and wanted to do it. And their attempt with the Mummy was kind of too much, too fast, and not really the right way. And it all, you don't have to take my word for it. The whole project just stopped. There is no dark universe right now. There's just individual filmmakers doing their thing, which is certainly fine. But I would have loved, what a project. Can you imagine? Maybe it's as a writer to go, we're going to make a shared universe. So what is movie 1, movie 2, movie 3? Think about how they did it with, it was Iron Man, and Captain America, then Thor, then they came together, then it was Iron Man 3. So it was like, how would you, with these awesome, iconic, cool characters? Yes, like being, and there were really 2 writers. You can look this up. 2 writers in a room trying to map this whole thing out, and beginning with the Mummy, and who knows what would happen if it had gone on. To answer the question, what I would have done is, I really think the monsters belong in the past. I really, maybe not black and white. It is the 21st century, but I think it's a lot more powerful when it is 1880. I believe Nosferatu, which is doing quite well, I believe that takes place in the 19th century. It's a Gothic romance. You need that atmosphere. You need castles and old mansions, and you don't need no one with a cell phone to immediately call the police. You can just helicopter in. You need horses and torches and castles. I really think you do, and I think Nosferatu. Robert Eggers would agree with me. So set it in the past, first of all, and then the way the monsters really did all exist in that sort of time period. You think about the novels, Frankenstein and Dracula were in the 19th century, Phantom of the Opera is the 19th century. You can get it to work. And the real problem everyone has, including me, is these are villains. That's the real problem. The Avengers are all heroes. The monsters, even though their name is the movie, all the old films, a human, someone kills them and defeats them. They may be sympathetic. They may be after love in some cases, like Mummy is a love story, but they are, even if they're misunderstood, they kill people. They go crazy. They are still evil in some way, or at least need to be killed and contained. So what do you do? How do you then make a shared universe where it's all bad guys? Can that be done? So I think the idea of Van Helsing, which came out in 2004, that's how you do it. Kind of Indiana Jones character, and have him, and you sort of split up the monster into good and bad. So you can have kind of I guess like a Suicide Squad or something like that, where you have, or even the X-Men, where there were good X-Men and X-Men that had a point of view. They weren't totally wrong. They wanted, they thought they were sort of like better than humans and were scared of humans, but they were the bad guys. And our X-Men were defending the humans. They do the same thing with the monsters, I think. There's monsters that understand science, and you can think of the monsters that way. You really could break them up.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
That as well. Yes, as well. It had a few monsters in it, I believe, as well as that sort of 19th century, those characters as well, and Quatermain and Tom Sawyer. And so there's the same, I think that's the way to do it. Set it in the past, have some kind of anchor character who is a hero, and then split up the monsters, because some of them are good. It's hard making Frankenstein monster movies these days, because Frankenstein is so sympathetic. He didn't ask to be created. Whereas like Dracula is evil. Dracula kills people. He kills you for your blood. So can you divide them up? The Invisible Man is crazy, but he's, there's humans, there's sort of ghostly monsters that are not like the Mummy is sort of magic. I think you could maybe I would do it, or maybe someone else would do it, but divide all the monsters into good and bad, and have them fight in an Avengers-like movie and go from there. But that would be my take. It's such great characters, and obviously Universal keeps trying to use them. They're in the new theme park in Orlando. They're going to have their own Las Vegas attraction as well, called Universal Horror Unleashed. These movies keep coming out one at a time, like Wolfman that just came out. So the IP is great. Everyone loves the monsters. They're iconic. How can they still be relevant today, 100 years later?
100 years later and 100 years from now, they still are going to be iconic. And that's a fantastic idea. Ooh.
I guess that was my pitch. Basically.
All right, Universal, you hear him. Okay, you hear, like, listen, if you're going to open them up in Las Vegas and all these different places, like, have something to jump off from there. That would be fantastic. That's a great idea. I love that. I love that idea. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, when you're ready to come back, you're welcome to come back at any time.
I'm honored. Thank you very much.
So, audience, as I always state, if no one has told you that they believe in you, that you got this, that you have this gift for a reason, I'm telling you that you have this gift. And you should get to writing, get to creating. Don't let anyone stop you, and don't let you stop you. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on How Would You Write It?